What's good, guys? LM7 here, doing a comparison video. This time, obviously, you can tell that it's on the B-Wing and the new Resistance Troop Transporter. So you might be saying immediately, these aren't the same sets. So obviously, what are you doing? This isn't the type of comparison that we expected. Well, I mean, they're similar sets, and I figured it might be good for people to see, in case you have the B-Wing and you're on the fence about getting the new one or whatever, or you just want to see what they look like because you don't have either set. Who knows? Anyway, let's just get some information stuff out of the way real quick. The B-Wing's number is 75050 and came out in 2014, the summer. Whereas, obviously, this new one, the Resistance Troop Transporter, is from Episode 7, 75140, and came out in January. So, piece-wise, let's take a small gander before I look into obviously comparing the two sets. I lost my train of thought there. You ever get that? Anyway, the B-Wing is 480, around 480 pieces. So we'll just round it up to 500, and 500 for $50. Not a terrible deal. It's actually a very good piece to price wise. And that's why the B-Wing is a pretty nice set. And then you have the Resistance Troop Transporter, which has 646 pieces. So you can round that to about 700. You shouldn't really, but just for this purpose, might as well round it to 700 for $69.99. So both are good piece to price, and that's very important when you're buying a set, unless it's just your favorite shit from Star Wars, and you'll pay whatever price to get the set regardless, or if it has a super exclusive minifigure, your favorite, yada yada yada. But immediately you can see a difference that the Resistance Troop Transporter is $20 more, with about 200 more pieces than the B-Wing. Even standard piece-wise, like I think the B-Wing has 486 or something like that. So the Resistance Troop Transporter is like 170-something pieces added compared to the B-Wing. So, enough of that schematics talk. Let's just get into this comparison. So, obviously, if you see my review, I've showed all the features of the B-Wing, but just get a quick look at some of the details and stuff on the B-Wing. I'm going to show you the front view and a like top view. And then here's a look at the wing. And then we'll do the same for the Resistance Troop Transporter. So here's a front view and a top view, just like that. Looks kind of funny when I hold it like this in the camera. Anyway, so I'm actually going to put them the same way, flying towards the right here, and we can look at the size differences of each set. So they are both, to the back of my base plate that I have here, and it might be slightly difficult to tell because I don't know, it's hard to tell. The way I have this camera, I can't see the very end of the base plate, but regardless of that, you can see that the B-Wing is longer than the Resistance Troop Transporter. So, like, I don't know, it's about, here's the last one. So looking at the B-Wing, it's about 7 studs longer than the Transporter. So that's a good, 2 or 3 inches difference in size, just right off the bat. Just lengthwise, not even looking at, pieces or anything crazy like that. But then widthwise, it might be harder for you to tell that way, but it would take the cake for the Transporter because of its gun here. That's why it's wider, but other than the gun like the bodies of the two ships are the same width. So that stands to reason. I can't say if this is confirmed or not because I haven't done, like in-depth research on it, but it looks to stand to reason that the new transporter is based somewhat off the B-Wing. Using its design, evolution between episode 6 and 7 when they used the B-Wing, and now B-Wing, we didn't see any in episode 7, but we saw this. So, it stands to reason that there is evolution, and, the ships are designed. This ship is designed after the B-Wing, so, obviously. Now, I guess we can take a look at some of the, let's look at the, well, I shot the missile. So there's that. They both have 2 flick missiles, by the way. Just throwing that out there. I just want to take a look at the body of each. So this part right here that I'm tapping is the body of the B-Wing that, houses the engines and everything like that. We're not going to look at the wings or the cockpit yet. We'll do that in a minute. But that's the body of the B-Wing. It's pretty small, and it makes for a very asymmetrical looking ship overall. And, obviously the cockpit can spin when the B-Wing shifts to fly in whatever direction. And then we can just see, we'll take a quick look at the engines too, because that's part of the body. Here's what the engines look like on the B-Wing. So, now let's take a look at the body of the transporter. And here's where a huge difference comes in. The body of the transporter is actually the entire middle of the set. So, where all that flimsy wings went on the B-Wing, they just decided to take it out and put this huge rectangular center in there. And obviously, because the B-Wing was not a carrier, whereas this carries troops. So here's a look at the body. The body itself, they're about the same length, like this wise, the body of the B-Wing. But the body of the B-Wing only takes up like this section of the transporter, where then you have this part here, and then this section over here. So the engines for the transporter are actually on the sides. They're not even connected to the main body of the ship, but just because I did it with the other one, we'll show the back of the ship like this too. So you can see where the engines are, the little orange circles right here, and on the other side too. So that is the 2 bodies done and out of the way. Another huge contrast is that the B-Wing obviously has 2 wings that extend out, whereas the transporter doesn't have that at all. The transporter doesn't have any wings. You could argue that the second part is a wing at the very end, but I just figure that's part of the ship. So, as you can see, the wings can extend out and down, so then you can have the B-Wing like this. So the B-Wing can actually extend to a huge distance, where the transporter can't do that at all. And the wings are the ones that hold the weapons, the 2 missiles on the B-Wing, whereas the body itself of the transporter holds the missiles on the left side. Okay, so that's just a small difference. The end wing, like the very... I said the B-Wing has 2 wings, because this middle section, it is a wing, but it's the B-Wing is weird. Anyway. So if we look at this little section right here, you can see that it's not very much. Even on the Ultimate Collector's B-Wing, which has a lot greater detail, it still really isn't much. Now, the Evolution decided, or whoever the designer of the B-Wing decided when they made this next one, they're going to make it crazy. And you hear that rattling inside, that's Akbar's cup rolling around in there. So, You can see we have the two fins that I didn't point out. Those are obviously not on the B-wing, but here, this side here is now a gun and has seen incredible extension since the B-wing. And it's much, much more detailed and complicated and way bigger. Like, even if the B-wing was like this, you wouldn't see any of that. Just piece-wise, there's big improvements over the two ends of the ships. So lastly, to take a look at, for comparisons and differences, obviously the bodies differ for the B-wing and the transporter, and the left sides are similar, but, different because they're different ships altogether. Just, they're similar because they're probably based off one another. And the last thing that we can take a look at is the cockpits. How are they different? Or the same? So here's the B-wing cockpit. It's what we expect it to be. It has the rotating feature and can open up to put in a pilot. So that's what we expect. Now we take a look at the transporter. The cockpit is a little bigger. As you can see, it has this added section here. So the B-wing wouldn't have this. It would just be connected straight to the body. And, it still opens up the same way. You still have an opening cockpit and room for one person inside. But this does not rotate. This side doesn't rotate at all. So that's a small difference. And like I said before, the thrusters are actually connected to the cockpit on this one, whereas the B-wing, they're in the center of the body, the huge 4 thrusters. So, little differences, but other than that, the cockpits are very similar. This addition here makes this cockpit twice the size of the B-wing, but, just looking at this section alone, it's almost identical to the B-wing. Not piece-wise or build-wise. They're completely different because you're working on this entire section instead of just a small spinning section. But like view-wise, they're very close to the same. So that will be it for the comparison of the Resistance Troop Transporter and the B-wing. Like I said, they're not the same sets, so the comparison is a little different, but they're based on similar ideas, so I figured we should show that off a little bit. But, it's up to you which one you like better. Personally, they're both weird and asymmetric, so I like that. But I like the new transporter. I feel they did a great job on it. The B-wing's a great set itself, too. Don't get me wrong, I really liked it compared to the 2004, 5 B-wing, or even 6, I don't know. Way back in the day, there's another B-wing that I had. I would love to show it off, but that's one of my few sets that actually broke. And I never got the pieces back for it. But this B-wing's a huge step up from that, and we probably won't see another B-wing for a while. Because they did that one and the collector's version, we probably won't see a B-wing for a couple of years. Anyway, what I was saying is I like the transporter a little better, just the way that it's bulkier, so it has more durability to play with. The B-wing's a little flimsy when it comes to the wings. So, if you're flying it around, the B-wing has a better chance to break than the transporter does. But the transporter is also a little heavier than the B-wing, so it just depends on your personal preference. And if, obviously if you're playing around with it, I don't just run around my house, flying around the B-wing. But if you're a younger kid, you probably do that. And that's, all to take into consideration when you're working on, deciding which set you want. But that's it for the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate it. There is another comparison after this. It's just like this type of comparison. It's not two sets that are based on each other, but similar sets. And then I'll get around to the Spider Walker when I can find one. But thanks for watching. See you guys later.